Good morning, everybody. Dr. Ruth Anderson here with the Enlightened Women Enlightened Summit. Today is day 8, and I am so pleased to have Linda Dierks here with us today over on Zoom. And just want to welcome you all. Thank you so much for being there with us. Thank you for participating in the live events and in the Facebook group. I don't know if y'all can feel it, but there really is a community building. And what's exciting for me is that it isn't just here in the physical realm. There is such a community built up to support us on the ethereal realm. And when I come into this room and get set, I've got goosebumps all the way up my neck. I mean, like the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. I think it's an acknowledgement from them. So thank you. When I come into this room and I get set up for our time together, I just take stock and see who's here in the room. And this morning in the room, and the group just keeps getting larger and larger, by the way. This morning in the room, I've got Archangel Michael, Divine Mother. I have the archangels that have been supporting us, including Archangel Ariel. I've got spirit guides from the different speakers and from the different participants. We've got the 500,000 earth angels. We've got the animals that have passed over that belonged and loved you. And then I'm also seeing the healing pool that Divine Mother is representing here. And more people just keep showing up to this healing pool. And I know that they are participants of the summit, whether they're watching videos actively or not. They're connecting in more and more energetically and receiving that healing from Divine Mother. It's a beautiful community that's coming together. So thank you. And I'm so excited to see where this heads. Let's say good morning to our guest today. It is Linda Dierks Day, day 8. So Linda, why don't you say good morning to our friends?
Hi, good morning and welcome everyone.
So pleased to have you here. And Linda is with us from Vermont today. Great. And we've got Terry Angel, who's going to lead us on our intention today. So Terry, do you want to say good morning and lead us on our intention?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be here again. A beautiful Sunday morning here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I'm at. And I love our intention today, and I love the energy surrounding it and surrounding Linda Dierks, our speaker. I can't wait for her video. So join with me as we do the intention. Our intention today, as we gather together, is to send loving, healing energy into the world, especially those who have felt the devastation from the recent hurricane in the Bahamas, with numerous being left homeless. Our hearts ache at what has happened there. We bond together through the guidance of Divine Mother to let them know they are acknowledged and loved. We ask Archangel Michael to stand as protector as they begin to rebuild. Let us remember that while we care for others, we must also care for ourselves. It is of utmost importance to do what we can to optimize wellness for body, mind, soul, and spirit. The Buddhist practice called metta means benevolence, loving kindness, friendliness, amity, goodwill, and active interest in others. Join with me and let's take these words to heart. May I be peaceful. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I be free from suffering. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free from suffering. And so it is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. That was beautiful. Okay, so here we go. We're going to enjoy the video with Linda Dierks. Hi, I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson with Enlightened World Network. Welcome to this episode of Enlightened Women. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and join us. We're just so glad to have you here. Enlightened Women is a show about women who are living lives with walking in alignment with their soul's calling. In these episodes, we not only talk about what these enlightened women are up to, but what are their latest learnings as a spiritual being having a physical experience? Now, when Archangel Michael asked me to create this women's seminar, he asked me to share what it is really like for women who are out there talking the talk and walking the walk. And it isn't always easy. These women aren't just sitting around meditating. These are real women with real life struggles, real doubts, and concerns. Today, we're talking with Linda Dierks, a gifted intuitive healer, a spiritual coach, and a best-selling author. Welcome, Linda. Thank you so much for being here with us.
It's wonderful to be with you again, Ruth. It truly is.
So, Linda, you have become quite an advocate for people with mental health issues. And you wrote this book just recently. It's called Quiet Mind, How to Create Freedom from Depression and Anxiety. And I was wondering, your walk through life when you were creating this book was really kind of a dark night of the soul for you. Is that something that you could share with us now, what that journey was like for you?
When I look back at it in hindsight, I can see how everything that has happened for me has actually been a gift in the end. But I went through about 5 years of what I call my dark ages. I lost my job. I was sick. I was out of work for a long time. I had depression problems. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was just a compilation of life's worst episodes. And I write that, having lost my identity, my sanity, all of my money, and my right breast, I was just way out of the reach of Western medicine. Traditional concepts had always been closest to me. I'd never really looked at alternative healing before, but I knew that if I didn't dig myself out of this hole, I was going to spend the rest of my life on disability and welfare because I simply was too sick to work. And I studied, I turned over every stone I could find. I studied alternative health modalities. I read everything I could find about quantum mechanics. I was looking for that core source of healing. And I found this consistent theme of energy. About 20 years ago, I had started seeing energy fields and everything started to blend together for me. And I was able to take really complex concepts, neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive thought and neuroplasticity, and put them into a form for just the ordinary person. What does this mean to me in my day-to-day life? So my whole purpose as a messenger is to teach self-empowered joy and wellness. And I happen to focus on mental health in this particular book because I believe that the mental health population is marginalized. I believe that there's just not enough conversation about it. And for me to come at it from my perspective of just an ordinary guy able to organize it into a cohesive program, I found really rewarding. It's intentionally very short, so it doesn't intimidate people. It's written in bullet points, so it's easy to follow. But because it's short, people can reread it again and again and again as their skill levels rise. Because most of this is about changing our thoughts, changing some of our lifestyle practices. And as your skills rise, your consciousness rises, and you can always go back and look back at the book and grow greater and greater.
Now, part of your healing work that you did on yourself was your spiritual journey. So what is that connection for you between the spiritual aspect and bringing in the divine light and your spirit guides and mental health?
I have no doubt that this is what you call a soul contract. This was something that I agreed to do before coming into this lifetime, and I'm a designated messenger. Working with my guides on a daily basis, I think one of the main advantages of that for me is that I have bulletproof confidence. I know that I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that I am backed up and supported. The image that I'm sent is that I'm like a paper airplane, and they're all lined up behind me like geese in flight, but they're actually really driving from the back seat. They're kind of guiding me through this process. And I think that if I were to look at my recovery, I believe that not just me, but anybody working with a higher presence is one of the cornerstones of that. Meditation or other practices to quiet your mind are a cornerstone of that. Exercise, and for me, it's communion with nature. I'm an avid hiker, and that's just my daily practice.
So I know for me, learning about spirit and connecting with spirit has been like building a relationship.
Mm.
I've always thought you really can't build a relationship if you only talk to someone for 5 minutes on a Sunday morning and say, okay, I'll see you in a week. That's really not how relationship is built. And so for you, building relationship with your guides, with your higher self, or how your God, however you see that, what does that look like for you? Is that a daily thing that you do, or are you just sort of always open? What is that like for you?
It's kind of a combination of both. I meditate first thing in the morning, and that's when I do my serious communication with my guides. Sometimes I'm at a loss for what to ask, so they just send the things in my direction that I'm supposed to know in that particular day. After my morning meditation, I go for a hike, and this is how I bridge between the etheric world and the physical world. It's kind of a subtle transition, but working with a higher presence, it becomes, as you say, it's not an hour on Sunday morning. It becomes a constant theme in your life. So you go through life with more love, thinking in a more compassionate way. You come through life with more acceptance for yourself and for other people, that we're all just different keys on the same piano. I'm more relaxed. There's less electricity in my life. As they say, when you're looking from the top of the mountain, the problems seem so much smaller. And when you work with a higher presence, you're seeing more of the bigger picture and a longer continuity of time, as opposed to, oh my gosh, this is a tragedy at this moment. Well, no, it's not. And so I work through life, I believe, in a much different way than the normal people do. For me, God is all about, as we all know, love. Love is the highest frequency, brings me, more quickly into connection with my guides when we're communicating in the morning. But God is also joy, and I don't think joy is emphasized enough. We are put on this earth so that the higher presence can create through us, and that includes growth and joy.
When it sounds like being in connection with spirit gives you a different perspective on things. So you are going through the same physical challenges that other people are. You're dealing with the politics, you're dealing with the news, you're dealing with a broken tractor. Right. So you have those same challenges that other people have. It sounds like connecting with spirit for you just puts things in a different perspective.
It does. So often we can be our worst enemy. in the way that we let things affect us. As I say, when you look at things from a broader perspective, you know, I'm single, so I deal with all of the problems myself, the brake job on the car, you know, the gutters that need to be repaired, you know, the yard work and all of that. But along with that responsibility, I try to do it with joy, and I try never, ever, ever to rush in my life. People who read my book will know that I encourage them not to watch the news and instead get involved in more positive aspects. I also live what I call in laboratory conditions. I'm retired. I don't have a job. I'm single. I don't have to maintain a relationship. I don't have any children, and I don't have any pets. I don't think that it's any coincidence that, you know, my life has been set up this way so that I can just be more involved in my work. But we were talking some time ago, and this keeps coming up, and that is the balance between the intellectual and the experiential. I mean, the experiential is our meditation time, you know, our time of just intake, our time of expansion. Most people are probably like me when they're involved in their intellectual time, when you're trying to write a book, when I'm writing articles for magazines or newsletters. I am highly focused, and I'm like a horse with blinders on. And right now I'm at a point of play, just sitting back and making play part of my experiential time has brought me great growth, greater connectivity with my guides. As I say, just that little pivot of attitude that gives you a sharper insight into whatever it's supposed to be that you're working on next. So I think that this playtime and the growth time are coming together in perfect synchronicity so that you look at your next project from the appropriate perspective or from the appropriate state of consciousness.
So what does playtime in meditation or in connection with spirit, what does that look like?
Well, I'm looking at playtime in my entire life, just not my time in meditation, but playtime provides more time for meditation. I'm more likely to add an evening practice. I'm more likely to shut things down and say, no, it's time for me to take a break. There's an old adage in the country that if you're chopping and the chopping becomes hard, you don't chop harder, you stop and sharpen the axe. And this is my time to sharpen the axe. I think a lot of people heavily involved in the intellectual also when you're publishing, when you're doing marketing and outreach, which is an important part of our job. It's easy to get pulled in a lot of different directions, and it's easy maybe not to have as solid a faith in your abilities. This time of play is also a play when you settle back into your abilities, you settle back into your confidence, and it's like a springboard into a higher place.
So that brings to mind something, Linda, that you and I have talked about before, that sometimes spirit gives us time for quiet and introspective and learning. And other times there's, at least for me, can't speak for you, but for me, there's the expectation of, okay, go put that out into the world. And so there's a sort of this ebb and flow of in time versus out in the world time. Do you experience that as well?
I think that I need to process the in time and how I'm going to put it out to the world. I think for all of us who are here as appointed messengers, we want to reach people. You know, my whole purpose in life is to save people from the suffering that I went through, and it's not that difficult, and I can bring this to them. And my frustration is, how can I reach more people? How can I involve more people in this process? So I think as you sit back, you become more receptive, and you're more likely for your guides to bring the answers to you that maybe you were struggling with. It's a time of receptivity. It's a time of saying, oh yeah, okay, and a time of realization. And as I say, just a time of greater expansiveness and receptivity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Learning to listen and being willing to listen.
Listening is quite a skill. And I think that when we get frustrated that we want to be moving forward, we have to remember the importance that everything happens at the pace of spirit, and that ability to listen is very, very, very important. One of the things, as I was thinking about this session, I asked my guides, what should our listeners know? What would you like to tell our listeners? And the message for them was, tell them not to undersell their abilities. Because we all come into this lifetime with not only unique skills, but also often, this is what I call stepping up to the plate. When you step up to the plate, spirit steps up to the plate and meets you. It's like a common escalation that's going on all the time. So other people that want to get into this type of work, I believe that we all have abilities that we can claim. Stepping into the position of being a leader sometimes can be difficult. I was sent an image this morning of us all, you and I and the other women that we work with, as kind of pillars with lots of people around us, and we're just sending out softening waves through all the chaos and quieting things down. And I believe our society is at a point right now where it's poised for higher consciousness, and we can just try to be those waves going out to people.
That's beautiful. And important that those waves don't have to be huge tidal waves. They can
of course. Yes. I think back at, and this is another thing, you don't have to step into the spotlight and be a leader. Just be a mentor to someone else. Be a woman supporting other women. And I look back at some of the people who mentored me along the way, and just want to tell them, look at this little wave that you set in motion, and look what we're able to do now. And again, you just have to be open to it and step up to the plate. Sometimes we push our comfort zone. There's no doubt about that. I know that you have pushed your comfort zone a great deal, but we are here to serve others, and we're all just trying to find the best way to do that.
Linda, one time I was doing a reading for a gal, and she was so frustrated because her son was very high needs, and he needed her attention almost all of the time. And it was so frustrating for her because she wanted to be a leader in the spiritual community, and she couldn't get the time or the space to do that. And what I saw was that she was a lighthouse, and lighthouses don't go out looking for boats. All they do is shine, and the boats come to them. It was so obvious that that was her role in life right now, while her son was, getting through elementary school and through school, and her time for really going out into the world would come. But for right now, she was just serving as a lighthouse for divine light, and that other people would see that and come to her. So even if folks can't get out into the world and make a big splash, there is such a place in the world for just staying still and just connecting with divine light. That plays a big role in the world too.
And imagine how meaningful it was for this person to say, well, I'm not being removed from my purpose. This is my purpose. And to come into that centeredness of, yes, of accepting that as my purpose, and knowing that their next purpose will come along when its time is right. Leading, we can't underplay the importance of leading by example. And it's exactly what she's doing. What a wonderful gift to her.
Well, have you had your calling change? Have you noticed it kind of shift as you've gone through this?
Oh, absolutely. I started out, because I see and work with energy. I started out doing energy work, and I taught workshops at cancer retreats, and I just became an author as a fluke. But I can see absolutely that everything that I have done along the way, including things way back in my professional life, have all been lining up to lead me to where I am now. I had to go through these certain steps, not only to build my own confidence, but also to build my knowledge base, the same as you do. You know, one of the hugest challenges for me, you know, this is a second chapter in my life. In the first chapter in my life, I had a professional job. I was the director of a chamber of commerce. I was the go-to person for 600 businesses, and I was a government relations specialist. I was a lobbyist. I wore a suit every day. And so that identity change was extremely difficult for me to let go of and to step into something that was just so different. But the draw was enormous. My guides at that point just kept communicating with me with repeating messages: stay the course, stay the course, stay the course, and then of course come dance with me. That invite of and the connotation behind the dance as being, you know, the flow, the intimacy, the connectedness, and you know, that come dance with me still stays with me. I haven't heard it for a while, but it repeated to me for over years and years and years, and it was that constant repetition of a theme that finally brought me full circle into the identity shift.
You said something humorous to me when you said fluke. It's a fluke that you ended up being a writer. And I would like to challenge that. I believe that was in your life plan all along. It just wasn't time before. If it was a fluke, you would not have written for Science of Mind magazine. You would not have written for Deepak Chopra's newsletter, and you would not have written for Enlightened World Online, nor would you be a best-selling author with your book here. So no, it's not a fluke. And when you said that when you step up to the plate, that spirit steps up to the plate with you, absolutely. And your life, just even in the last 16 months, is such a testament to that.
As I look back, you're absolutely right. And I did have a background in journalism and you know, marketing and writing. But one of the things I really want to emphasize, and this also goes back to what I was saying earlier about mentoring others, I doubt it. Well, perhaps I would have, but the most important things in the changes in my life were other people doing this work, saying to me, you can do this. You know, my original mentor was Meredith Young Sowers from the Still Point Foundation, who gifted me a scholarship to one of her clairvoyant training programs. Meeting you was enormous, because working with you and other women in this network, we inspire one another, but we're like a gravitational star that you can be more, you can do more. And I think that's one of the big challenges of doing this work, is not thinking big enough. You know, it goes back to that old saying that, you know, our greatest fear is our own power, and getting rid of our self-limiting thoughts. And for me, I used to be an athlete. You know, you play with somebody who's better than you are, it ups your game, and you play with part of a team, and it just, you know, it escalates what you're doing. So the importance, you know, I want to, you know, especially applaud the importance of what you're doing.
No, thank you.
World.
Linda, meeting you was so instrumental in my spiritual journey, because until that time, I didn't have a cohort. I didn't have a colleague that I could say, Spirit is telling me to do this, and I'm afraid to do it by myself. I need you to hold my hand and do it with me. I didn't have anybody in the world to do that with. And then I met you, which was not a fluke, by the way. By the way, Linda and I both ended up at a conference in a completely different state than where we both live. And she sat right in front of me, and it happened. We met, and she was the best souvenir I took home from the conference, is all I can tell you. But Linda has been that person for me of, okay, now I need to go learn how to do podcasts. Will you do them with me? Now I need to go create this. Will you do it with me? And it's not that she's standing next to me doing the work with me, but she's my cheerleader. And it means the world to me. So I'm really reminded of the importance of community and the importance of finding someone who understands you, understands what's motivating you and what's inspiring you, and can join you in that journey. So for our listeners, if you don't have that someone in your life yet, don't give up, because it's going to come, and it'll come at the right time, but just be open.
And I am so honored to work with you, Ruth, and see, from, just the radio programs that we did, only a little over a year ago, and what you're doing now. But it brings up what you and I have talked about, of finding your tribe. And your community or your tribe are people with similar beliefs, not only in working with Ruth, but also finding a spiritual community that worked for me in a very large community. I find it incredibly validating of my work to have other people of like thinking say, hey, you're doing good work, or have you thought about doing this? This is what I'm doing. How can we come together and how can we work together? And that community, I think, is just essential in having confidence. Is the building your foundation upon stone. The tribe brings you that confidence. Your guides bring you that confidence, and your practice brings you that confidence. And when you bring them all together, these are the pillars. Once it comes together, it's like an explosion. And don't undersell your abilities was the question. One of the other things that came to me the other day from my guides about, what is the key behind everything? And I was told this essential key is for all of us to acknowledge that we are all extensions of God. We are all individual rays within the same being. And when we can come from that place of love and joy and compassion, then the issues of the world will all fall away.
What a beautiful learning from Spirit right there. Thank you for sharing that. And I love what you're saying about don't undersell your abilities. There was a woman that I was talking with, and she said, well, I can't write anything. I can't speak about anything because I don't have it all together. And I said, well, what percentage do you think you have it together? I mean, do you think you've got it 50% together or 75% together? And she said, well, I think I'm about 75% together. And I said, well, Carla, I said, that being the case, I think there's 74% of the population that could learn something from you. What do you think about that? And she said, yeah, I think you're right. And she was able to then step into her power, step into her strength and say, there is somebody that I can help.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say to our listeners, if you don't think you've got it all together, someone can benefit from what you have to share. So please put yourself out there.
I think that if you and I waited until we had absolute clarity about everything, we would go nowhere. And you can compartmentalize and say, I am very clear about this, and then work from there. And here we go again, back into the importance of play and balancing the experiential, because this is the time that it'll just come to you like that. And it'll come from a place, where did that come from? But it's just you're working through this thing until Spirit reaches you and gets that answer back to you, and the clarity around all of these issues just keeps building. But if I waited until I knew it all, we would go nowhere. But fine, I'd say compartmentalize it. Take what's confident for you. Take where you have balance and clarity, and develop that, and then continue to grow on previous concepts, because it's something that never stops unfolding for you. You say, well, when I reach this point, that's going to be the pinnacle for me. You never ever are going to reach that point. It is always a continuous process, because as your consciousness rises, what's coming back to meeting you, meet you rises. And so it just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. It's a constantly upward spiral.
And the growth never has to stop. Yeah, when my father passed at 88, and the last year of his life, he had the most growth as a spiritual being during that year. It was beautiful, frankly. So never too late. Doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late.
And as you grow, your guides are going to change. If a guide leaves you and you just really don't want them to, it's just their time to go. I work with a collective consciousness who, one of the clearest ways they have represented themselves to me is as a choir, and they're all standing there, and individuals, soloists will come down from the choir to work with me at certain stages of my growth, and then they'll step back into the choir and a different soloist will come down and work with me. So I recognize, and they will come and go, like our Minerva, who kind of a guide that we share in common. They will come and go as your needs, whatever information that you're looking for at that time, and your level of consciousness. It's an ever shifting process, and that's another one of the beauties of it is flexibility. If you try to stay in one spot, eventually it's going to get stale. But to always be listening and to be pulling things from different areas. When I'm writing about healing, I'll take a concept I may have learned from quantum mechanics, and take a concept I may have learned from Barbara Brennan chakra work, and something I learned about psychology, and it'll come together into a new concept. And that's where this kind of dovetailing of information comes, because that coming together of a new concept was spirit twining all these things together for me. I can't take credit for anything that I do. It's being fed through me. I'm an instrument, and I love it. I just hope it never stops. It's always new. It's always fresh. It's always challenging. It's always frustrating, and things never move as quickly as you want to. Technology is a big challenge for me. And when it all comes down to it, we are people moving through life, just trying to do all we can in our capacity to serve others.
I love what you said about the choir. And before we go, I just want to share one quick story. So I was working for about a year, mostly with Archangel Raphael. And then there was a time where he stepped aside, and then I worked mostly with Archangel Michael. So it was about a year with Archangel Michael. And then there was a meditation, and Archangel Raphael came in, and I said, I've missed you. I mean, I really felt it. I said, I've missed you. And he said, I never left you. And it's really that concept of the choir and who's the soloist at the time. So thank you for putting a construct around what I experienced. That was very cool. So Linda, if folks want to follow you, what's the best way for them to find information about you?
Well, I would love for folks to go to my website, which is spinstrawtogoldnow.com. When you go to my website, you'll find out all kinds of information about me, but most importantly, you'll find a little spot where you can sign up for my blog. And this is how I keep myself challenged. This is a little brief 3-paragraph, 30 seconds to read point of inspiration that comes out every few weeks called Creating Joy and Wellness. And it's fun, it's short, and I'm always looking for people to feedback information for me. So go to my website, join my blog. You'll also find a contact page there if you'd like to send me a personal email. I also love hearing from people.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much for being with us here today. I greatly appreciate it. And I am so excited for all of the women that are going to get to hear this interview with you. And they can check out your book. They can check out your blogs. I'm so excited to introduce them to you. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ruth. Never have enough time with you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, folks.
Oh, Linda Dierks, Linda Dierks. Before we start talking, I've been asked to share one thing with y'all. And during the videos, I'll sit and I'll just check in and see if anything's changed with the guides that are here. And what I saw was I was shown again the healing pool that Divine Mother has been, that's her place. I mean, that's her place, and she invites people in. And what I saw during the video was that spiritually, some of the people from the Bahamas joined in the healing pool, and I'm getting goosebumps even saying it right now. And I saw folks from our group go over and welcome them and assist them in the healing pool. So I wanted to share that with you all. The other thing I wanted to say is that had Linda Dierks not listened when Spirit asked her to please go to that concert or the conference in Phoenix, probably 2.5 years ago, I don't know that we would all be here together today, because Spirit knew I needed a cohort, and Spirit gave me Linda Dierks to help guide me in that way. So honestly, the fact that we are all here together today is partly because of Linda. So thank you, Linda. So I wanted to, I took a bunch of notes, Linda, on the things that you had shared in your video. And I'm gonna, Terry, I'm just gonna mute you because that's kind of loud in the background. Linda, can you talk for a minute about hiking and nature? And what is that spiritual connection for you that comes through being in nature?
I think nature for me is that quieting place, as I spoke of before. It's like a halfway point between the ethereal and the physical. For me, I say that nature is the mind of God, ever expressing and unfolding. When you look at nature, you see oneness, timelessness. There's just a sense there, and when I come back from my hike in the morning, I come across the tracks that I left on my way out, and I know that I'm just not the same person, just having had that additional time with the divine. It's been a connection I've always had, and of course, and welcome to Vermont, everybody. Growing up in rural Vermont with a family that loved the outdoors, it's something that's always been part of me. And I actually just found out this morning that my article about nature is the feature article, one of the feature articles in Science of Mind magazine this month. So pick up a copy of Science of Mind magazine, yes, and thank you. But I believe that being in nature is my way. Everybody should have their way, something that they absolutely love, that it's their way of quieting their mind, whether it's a meditation practice or forest bathing, walking and hiking in the woods. Find some place where you can come inside yourself and just be calm, because having that practice in your life will carry into everything that you do, and your higher consciousness and your happiness.
So Linda, I think it is, well, first of all, congratulations. That is so incredibly awesome. Congratulations, you deserve this.
And thank you for your wonderful and generous compliment. This has been a stunning day all around, but please go ahead.
I'm so glad that they realize the gem that they have found in you.
Because I said yes.
Because you said yes. And
you said yes. And all the speakers in this summit and the people who are watching are all people who are stepping up to the plate and saying, yes, I will follow this path and I will listen.
So I'm going to take us to the nature piece for just a minute. You send me photos and videos of orbs and rainbows and different light elements coming in on your hikes. And I do believe that because you stop and you watch and you listen, that all of the elements of nature are presenting themselves to you. And I think that people that might go for a hike might just like trudge right through, not stop, not slow down, not be open to all the possibility, and they miss it.
I think they only miss it because they don't know how. I think that all of us are like lightning rods. We can absorb the energy and then channel it back out. Oftentimes when I'm hiking, I sense a change in the energy, especially in the desert. There's a vortexes. Oftentimes when I feel that energetic change, I will take these photos. I don't see it in my actual literal eye. I see them in the photos. You know, the orbs that we see, the entities that come through as beams of light, the fractals, the fracturing of light as it hits water over lily pads. You know, these are things sometimes I do not see with my real eye. I see them with my nature eye, and they come out in the photographs. I've shared them with you. I've never shared them before, but I have a collection of orbs that you have taken and sent to me. I have them all packed away in a file, and you are also shooting the same small blue orb.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's fun. It's fun to have that connection with you. So you had, I'm going to share your Quiet Mind book, because this is one of the appreciation gifts that we are sending out to the people that become the All Pass members. So, and it's a great book. And I was just looking through it again this morning. You have written about the electromagnetic fields, the impact of electronics on us as individuals, and that's in this book. It's actually very well done. But you talk about the electronic communications, social media, and the electromagnetic frequency exposure. Do you mind just taking just a minute before we go to Terry and the group to share how you've seen those particular things impact you, and I know me too, as a body?
Well, I believe that all of us, regardless of how we communicate with spirit, or if we're just starting on this path, can feel that energy. And you know, I can turn my microwave on and I can feel the energy, and I'll step away. We don't realize how harmful the effect of electromagnetic frequencies are. If you look at our climate, we have a perfectly balanced carbon oxygen, you know, balance in our biosphere, and now we're bombarding it with huge amounts of rays. And I think that as we see the effects of 5G and other things coming, especially in terms of depression, fatigue, and different diseases that our bodies just aren't set up for the electromagnetic frequency. I try to take precautions, and I try to stay away from technology, but use it as a comfortable tool. I'm trying to become more comfortable with technology, but keep, like everything else, a good balance. You know, just like I say, we need to keep more joy in our lives. We always need to keep that balance going.
Yeah, I really recommend, whether you do the All Access Pass and get this as an appreciation gift or not, I really recommend picking this up. This is on, it's called Quiet Mind, How to Create Freedom from Depression and Anxiety. If you know anybody who's dealing with depression and anxiety, please pick this up for them, because it really has very helpful information on bringing body, mind, and spirit together to support you in your fullness and in your wellness. Please pick that up. And if you're wondering what that dinging is, that's Linda's, that's Linda's computer. It is everybody who's trying to contact Linda at this point.
I apologize. I didn't turn off notifications, but I just want to point out that the book is a great little handbook for anyone who wants to have more joy and wellness in their lives.
And it is. I will attest to that. So Terry Angel, is there anybody with us over in Facebook?
Yes, there is. We have a wonderful group of people watching and some beautiful comments. I want to read some of the comments. We don't really have any questions yet, but they're very involved in this communication that's taking place today. Deb Goldberg says, I go through that with Jesus, Ruth, when he steps back to allow another spirit to come forward. But I have learned it's like a spiritual tag team for whatever you need. And I can relate to that. That happens with me as well.
Can I make a comment also?
Yes.
You know, I talk a great deal about joy in our lives, and Deb just cracked me up when she was talking about her, you know, her guides or angels, you know, talking to her in the middle of the night. She says, just let me sleep. She was such a pleasure.
Yes,
ahead,
I
Terry.
can totally relate to that as well.
You got to laugh in your work and your everyday.
I know. It's like that 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning time when they're trying to get your attention, right?
Just let me sleep.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot of gratitude on the post for you, Linda and Ruth.
You too all.
And it says, Ivana says, thank you, Linda Dierks, for being a dedicated light worker. Deb says, Linda, you are a blessing. I love your message and I'm grateful for your light. Olivia Parrudd is with us and she says, thank you, Linda Dierks and Ruth Anderson. And let's see, Deb says, so grateful for your divine connection and bringing us all here together. And Ivana says, this is all divinely guided. And I am grateful for all the connections that have taken place in order for all of this to happen. So there's just been a lot of gratitude, a lot of aha moments, I think, as you talked about being a lighthouse, and what a great image that brought out for all of us. And yeah, I especially loved when you talked about being there to support each other, you know, women helping women and supporting women and lifting each other up. That really touched my heart because that's something that I'm very passionate about as well. And helping those that are going through what I've already been through. And now we can become those mentors that say, you know, you're going to make it through this. And I think that's the most important message we can tell somebody. You're not alone and you're going to make it through this.
You know, Terry, somebody had shared with me the other day this motto, and I love it. Empowered women empower women.
Yeah. Yes.
There's no need for competition.
No.
At all. Every single one of us can be our best self, and it doesn't diminish anybody else's light. All it does is raise all of us up.
That sounds like my next blog.
I love it. I love it. So,
yes,
Linda, something that you say, you are all about joy. You radiate joy. Blogs are about joy. And I know your guides have said to you several times, and you have said to me, come dance with me. And I want to thank you for bringing joy and bliss, really, to the work that you do and to my heart. Thank you for reminding me about joy.
Thank you, Ruth. Bless you for all you do for the community you create.
Oh, thank you. So, Linda, thank you so much for being here with us today. Terry, thank you, and everybody else who's with us on live. And we love you all, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow is day 9, and we are going to be presenting Ivana Vazo Morano at 11 o'clock Mountain Time in the morning. So please join us for that. And with that, we'll say we'll see you soon. Take care.
bye everybody.
Much love.